There she was on the kitchen floor in debt, crying, stressing out because she was using one credit card to pay off the other, making only $2,000 a month to support her six-figure lifestyle. And she thought she was doing everything right. Now, if you've ever felt this way, there is hope for you because within 6 months, my guest today turned everything around. Within 6 months of one conversation, she just kept going. Today, I'm sitting down with Danielle Amos. She is the Mystic Millionaire Mentor. She's also a protege of Bob Proctor, and she empowers high-performing women to elevate their self-image, mindset, and relationships with money by blending timeless wisdom and spiritual alignment and real practical strategy. Bob Proctor himself called her one of his top experts. So in today's episode, we are going to break it down with my guest. We're going to talk about the universal laws behind why your results are always telling you the truth. We're going to talk about the law of opposites and why contrast in your life is actually a signal, not a setback. We're going to be talking about why the law of vibration was removed from The Secret and what that means for you, and how to reprogram your self-image and become the version of you that attracts the result that you want. And the practice that changed everything for Danielle. I wrote her, I became her. Now, this episode is epic. Make sure that you stay till the end and write down what she says at the end because it's going to change your life forever. Let's dive into this episode today. Well, I'm very excited to have Danielle Amos on the show today. We're going to be talking about the universal laws and some really cool stuff. So welcome to the show, Danielle.
Thank you, Tracy. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you. Bob Proctor calls you you're one of his top experts, correct? I really want to dive into that. Like, how do you get into Bob Proctor's world? So why don't we start a little bit, how'd you get involved in the law of attraction and all the universal laws and getting into, I could just remember watching The Secret so many years ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Well, first of all, I started with this work like I was 20, so I'm almost 50. And when I was 21, I traveled to India on my own. And so I was meditating and reading books like this, not really around the law of attraction back then. But what is fascinating is I had to hit rock bottom in order to pick up those books again. So I was fascinated about the universe and how things worked. And then I kind of dropped it and got into the corporate world and became a really logical thinker. And this is now back in 2010 when my daughter was born. I didn't really love the corporate world at that point. I wanted to do something different. And I felt like I was making someone else's dream come true. And so I said yes to network marketing, which I think is a fabulous industry, but I assumed that I'd go right to the top because I already was a success in my corporate world. And I didn't. It was like 2.5 years of really struggling. And it started to eat away at my confidence. Like I thought something was wrong with me. Like, why aren't people buying this lipstick, And it didn't make any sense. And it was in 2015. At this point, I had quit my corporate job cold turkey because I believed that if I just worked on my side hustle harder and longer, it would work. Because clearly that was what was wrong. It was like not enough hard work. And I didn't replace my income. I was earning $2,000 a month and I still had bills of like $100,000, $100,000 income earner. And I quickly found myself in a lot of debt, credit card debt, using one card to pay off the other, using cards for mortgage. It was like messy.
Credit card roulette right there.
Oh my gosh. It was so stressful. And the only way that I knew how to cope was alcohol to get me to sleep because I wasn't sleeping.
Wow.
My daughter was now 4, almost 5. And I remember crying on my kitchen floor as my then husband was yelling at me. He was not happy with the decisions I made. And I was like, but I believe in myself. Like, I know I'm meant for this. And my mom called me and she said, you're coming to Guelph. So like I was living in Toronto, so a couple hours outside of my home where I was living. And she's like, you're coming to Guelph and you're coming to this seminar. And she's like, this guy is going to read from the book, Think and Grow Rich. And I have it here. I was just teaching about it. And I'm like, Mom, I know that book. Like, I'm not coming. I know, I can tell you everything that's in this book. I've read it a million times and we read that. And And she's like, just come. It would be good for you to get out of the house. You're miserable. And so I got in my car. I remember having to find change at the like in my car to pay for the parking, like look for change. And I sat at the back of the room with my hands crossed, my arms crossed.
Like this?
Yeah, like not open. Just like, what am I doing here? Well, it was Bob Proctor on stage. I didn't know who he was. I had watched The Secret, but I didn't remember the specific people who were in it. And he said one thing from stage. He said, well, he said a few things that really hit me, but the one thing that like changed my life, he was like, your results always tell the truth and they show your understanding. They show what's going on inside your mind. And he said, if you don't like your results, your way's not working.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Hello.
And I was like, I remember sitting in the back and I was like ready to fight him. I'm like, you don't understand. My husband doesn't believe in me. People won't buy my lipstick. It's like the summer. And I had
won't buy my lipstick. That's amazing.
Right. It was like every reason outside of myself as to why my results were my results. And he just shook his head. He's like, and I didn't know what he was talking about. I'm like, I work a lot. And I had no idea that I had a negative mindset, what we can consider a negative mindset, because I was pretty like, well, no, I was pretty doom and gloom. And that I also had a negative self-image, like the way that I viewed myself. I was nasty to myself. I constantly thought that I should be doing better. And so super judgmental, like nothing was ever good enough, and like A-type, classic A-type personality, right? And he taught me that day that it's inside out. And I borrowed 3 credit cards, Tracy, to invest in his program. I could tell he knew what he was talking about, and I could tell that he had what I was missing. And so I borrowed 3 credit cards, one from my mom, to pay for the down payment. I knew my husband at the time was going to lose his mind. And I could not tell anyone because like this was not logical. I was already $100,000 in debt. So why would I go and invest in something else? But I knew I had to. I can't explain this knowing, but it was just like.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
I've been there before.
Yeah. And so I did. And I remember my husband going, you've invested in all these things before and none of them worked. And I said, yes. And I don't think I really did them. I don't think I was really like, I don't know if I use the word coachable, but I said, I admit that I don't think I followed through, and I'm giving you my word. I'm following through. This is working. And within 6 months, I tripled my income. I started winning all the awards with the company. It was like magic sauce. Like people were like, what's happening? People were buying my lipstick. They were joining my team, like out of the blue. And it was, oh my goodness, I had been struggling, thinking something was wrong with me. And all I needed to understand was, well, how things actually work.
Okay. So I want to dive into how things actually work. But most important, the first thing that I want to ask you though, is like, what was the main shift that happened initially that kind of shook you to get you out of that, your current reality? Because, we hear a lot of people talking about it, right? Like jumping timelines and, you see like all the people with doing those, say this before bed 20 times and you'll be a millionaire tomorrow kind of stuff. Yeah. So I want to like separate like the fluff from the actual
what works. Well, I mean, it did feel like I jumped timelines in pretty fast 6 months. And what the first step was to take responsibility, radical responsibility. I had no idea it was, quote unquote, I'm going to use this word. It might like jolt some of the listeners, but my fault. Now, it's not my fault. Nothing is I wasn't consciously sabotaging, but here's the thing. If you're not willing to take full responsibility for your current results, then you've lost your power. So it's not because of the economy. It wasn't because what people were doing around me. It was me. I'm the source. I'm the one that's co-creating. And so that radical responsibility was super necessary. So when Bob Proctor said what he said, it like punched me in the gut. It was like, holy crap, I've been a victim. I've been a victim to my husband not believing in me. I've been a victim to the economy. I've been a victim to my circumstances. It doesn't work. I played victim very
No.
well.
Okay, so can you explain? We're gonna go a little loop de loop because I think this would be really valuable for the people listening to this podcast. But how do you describe victim energy? Because I think this is a really important concept for people to understand. And you mentioned radical responsibility, and I think of this as like self leadership. Right? We're leading ourselves. It's our responsibility. We can take the effort. We can't necessarily control the outcome, but if we're taking the right actions and being in a positive mindset and actually doing the thing that we know that we should be doing, then ultimately that's going to get us a better result. So
Yeah,
let's talk about the difference between being in ownership or self-leadership versus victim energy, because I think sometimes we don't even realize we're in it.
totally.
Like sometimes I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? Like snap out of this.
Yeah. Well, I would define victim energy as any time that you believe that your outside circumstances are the cause of more of those results. So anything outside of you. Now, like I get caught in this even now. It's been 10 years since that I sat in that seminar, more than 10 years. And we can get caught in this loop when things are going well for us as well, right? So we see it all the time, and the society is programming us to believe that our success or lack of is because what we are doing, but it's not doing. It's not hustle harder. Doing action is important, yes, but it's not the starting point of results. The starting
You know what
point.
someone said to me once? Sorry to interrupt. They're like, you're a human being, not a human doing.
Doing. Yeah. Yeah. So the beingness is the starting point. And so I would say like really nuanced, like this is really now specific. I would say this is like pretty high level, right? Is like, I'm actually a victim anytime that I believe that anything outside of me is the cause of my experience. So for positive or negative. And that's a trap. It really is. So I'm super aware. Like so for example, this podcast, you and I are having this discussion. We're going to launch it and share with our networks. Let's say that someone listening goes and invests, Tracy, in one of your things. I heard you and Danielle have this conversation, or vice versa. Someone invests mine. We could trick ourselves and become a victim to our circumstance, because a victim to our physical reality, by saying, oh, it's because I did this, because I had the conversation that this happened. So all I need to do is do more podcasts. And it's not the podcast.
It's the energy behind how you're showing up.
Got it. It's the energy. It's the vibration. It's the beingness. It's who I am. It's who you are. It's our combined magic that produces the outcomes.
I love talking about this. I just hosted a challenge in January called the Breakthrough, and it was all around this. And we're talking about having a breakthrough year and how you get your energy back into alignment with what it is that you desire. And it's so tricky. Well, it's not tricky. It's just so tricky how our minds are so complicated that at any given time, it can pull us back into a place where we don't want to be. So it's constant work. So I want to talk a little bit more about your understanding of the universal laws. And then one of the things that I really want to get to is like, what are some of your ways of like shifting energy? Because I feel like that's it. Like we are so multifaceted, all of us. And I truly believe that if we're not feeling the full range of emotions, then we're kind of bypassing life. So we have to experience that. But so how do we shift into what's better? So let's start with the universal laws first.
Okay. Well, yeah, let's go to one that I've been really contemplating for myself a lot lately and been playing with in my own understanding. And I would say that's the law of opposites. So first of all, you said that we're multiple faceted humans. So what I take that to mean for myself is that we are spiritual beings having this human existence, and we actually exist on several planes all simultaneously. We're on the spiritual plane, the part of us that we can't see, right? The extension of source. And then we have our intellectual plane and emotional plane, and then the physical plane. And so these universal laws actually operate on all of those planes. And when we first start thinking about the laws, often we as humans only address, like our consciousness can very easily understand the physical plane and how those laws operate. So the law of opposites on the physical plane would be, in order to understand hot, there must be cold. Hot, cold, up, down, good, bad. It's like also known as the law of polarity.
Yeah, or duality too, in a way.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. If one exists, the other must exist. And the truth is, these laws also operate on the other realms. And it's when we understand and can live in harmony with the laws with an understanding of the spiritual and emotional realms, then that actually is what dictates how we see the laws in the physical world. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
the law of opposites has been my favorite right now, because when someone desires something more, like more money, and they say, okay, they maybe have a desire or goal to have, let's pick a fun number, like $100,000 a month, $10,000 a month. The number doesn't matter. And they desire this, and they start to think about what that and feel what that feels like, and view the world from that goal achieved. And there's several things that you can like do to become that version of you that can hold that. When you start to do this work, the law of opposites will create the context for that $100,000 a month. And in order for you to know what $100,000 is, you got to know what it's not, which is the polarity. And so what often happens, and it must happen first, that the opposite of what you desire must show up for you, either actually in a physical thing or something that creates the thinking and feeling of the opposite, which would be lack.
Interesting.
So,
Okay, this is interesting.
yeah. So then what happens is, so let's say now I'm like holding this energy of 100,000 and shifting, I can get really excited about it. And then I get a tax bill. Or maybe it's just like an email about, or maybe my furnace goes conk, and it's like nothing's happened with the furnace, but I hear a noise and my mind goes, oh my gosh, the furnace, that could be like a $10,000 bill. Like it doesn't even have to happen. It just creates the context, the feeling of lack and limitation, like a worry. And sometimes it actually does show up in the physical world. So like a tax bill. So let's just use that example. So I'm now working with this idea of where I'm going. And then this tax bill comes. And at first glance, or a less aware person, let's say, might say, oh my gosh, it's not working. I'm getting these bills are coming to me. I must not be doing it right. And they get all caught up in this bill. And I say to my clients, your response to the physical matters. It determines what comes next. And if you react and freak out and say it's not working, you're going to get more bills. And if you can respond with the awareness of the law of opposites, saying, oh my gosh, this invoice that's come is just simply creating the context for me to feel lack and limitation, so that the container is being built for me to hold what's actually coming, which is my $100,000 a month. And I've got to be willing to hold the opposite. I can't know hot if I don't know cold. So this is me experiencing cold. And if I truly believe that money's everywhere, money's infinite, it's circulation, all, like there's lots of ways that I teach clients on how to believe the truths about what's actually happening, then I can hold that energy and I can say, okay, well, this tax bill is just, it's like evidence that I'm actually on the right path, that I'm actually emotionally involved with that desire I have. And so that's using the law of opposites. And you can see how I'm doing the work in a different realm. I'm doing in my thinking and my feeling. And I'm also even going higher into the spiritual by saying, okay, there's nothing wrong here, that like money's energy, it's infinite. It's like, this is the context, the container. And from there I can respond. And there's other tools that you can regulate your nervous system and things like that as you move through it, but really understanding that your response to it matters. And that law, for myself, I'm like right in it with all of us. Like I'm practicing it myself, and I practice every day. I'm not like, I don't pretend to have arrived. It is a practice. Yeah.
So how do you keep yourself connected? So what are most people know about the law of attraction, right? Law of receptivity,
Mhm.
tell me some of the main laws that we're working with.
I work with 22, so
Okay.
more than what we've heard from other places. But a few of my favorites is the law of rhythm. And the law of rhythm states, I think of it like the ocean. So like how the tide goes out, it must come back.
Hmm.
Or like a farmer, there's seasons of planting and then seasons of harvesting. So that rhythm, there's a natural rhythm, an up and down to life and our results. So that law I love, and understanding it is important. Law of attraction, yes, from the movie The Secret, but it was actually missing, just like a lot. If you get any other edition of Think and Grow Rich, other than the original, it was missing the word vibration over 300 times. It was taken out. Well, the law of the attraction is like a secondary law. So it's if you don't understand the primary law of the law of vibration, it doesn't mean anything. So, and vibration was removed from The Secret. If you find an original copy of the movie The Secret, Abraham and Jerry and Esther, and speaking from Abraham, and they speak the word vibration. And I had this conversation with Bob while he was still here, and they were taken out. So if you find the version now, they're no longer in it.
I saw one of the original ones. Had it on a DVD, I think.
Oh my gosh, if you can find that
So long
DVD,
ago.
if you can find that original DVD and it still has them, it would be worth a lot of money. It's very hard to find that original.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Why? So why are they, now we're going to go on a tangent, but I'm kind of curious about this. Like, why take the word vibration out? Because everything is energy, right? That's what
Yeah.
everyone's talking about. In
Yeah.
fact, my 4 pillars of founder-led frequency are vision, voice, visibility, and vibration,
Oh my
because
gosh.
it's really about your energy, right? So why do you think they took energy out? You probably know.
Well, I would say what happens in a world when everyone knows that the power is within and they can
Hmm.
do and create anything that they desire.
They can't be
Like,
controlled.
yeah. There's like, yeah, if you really understood that your natural state is good health and your body can heal itself, if you really understood that money comes through jobs and opportunities, not from a job, comes and you are that actual source.
Wow.
Yeah. And it all starts with vibration, to your point, because everything is energy. It can't be created or destroyed. It's the building blocks, or we can call it spirit, the building blocks of all that exists. And everything vibrates, and you are receiving based on that vibration. And you can't, and that vibration shows up because of so many things. Like one of them is belief, and you can't fake believe, right? So yeah, I think that's why. And instead, fear, which is a vibration, you get a lot of people in fear and it stops them in their tracks and then they can be controlled.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sorry.
there's a lot going on here in the
Yeah.
United States, even close to
Yeah.
Canada.
Oh my
So,
gosh. Yeah.
and it's like intense. And I feel like this whole mess is because of people trying, like the powers that be trying to control the masses. I don't know. There's just so
Well,
much. I'm not even going to go into it, but like it
yeah,
really speaks to the
I would say
people in
put these
power.
on. Put these on.
Oh,
These are
yes,
my earmuffs. And I
exactly.
have these on my desk because, as a reminder, and I often bring them out to my clients, because you'll either get distracted and allow what you hear on the news to be your reality, or you will put earmuffs on and remember where your control is. And I think a lot of
Mhm.
people, they can sit in front of the TV or the news with like maybe a glass of wine or a tea, and they relax and their conscious mind goes wide open. And when they relax, that's what happens. And then everything they hear around them goes right into their subconscious mind, and that becomes their reality. They're being programmed. And we don't understand that all the time. So you want to take your control and close your conscious mind.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about programming and rewiring and reprogramming. So a lot of us we all have deep-seated beliefs from childhood and things that we think are reality, and we've created stories about experiences that we've had. What's your thought on like reprogramming your identity? Because this is a huge power move.
I love talking about identity. I use the word self-image, and I can explain why. It's more complex than identity. So we wear many identities, kind of like hats. Like I have an identity as a mom, as a CEO, as a girlfriend, a daughter. And within those identities, we have self-images, and the self-image, and they're different for each identity. And so the self-image is the way you view yourself and the way you believe others view you. Okay. So it's a little bit more layered than the identity. And so, yeah. And how you reprogram yourself is kind of like, I like to think of it as you get to create your identity or self-image. Okay. So it's kind of like a character. So just like when a producer or a writer of a movie creates characters for that movie, you get to do the same thing. And I had no idea that this was a thing. So I thought the way I was showing up was just the way I was always showing up. And I didn't understand that I could actually, on paper, logically think of who I would like to show up as and then become that version of me. So in
It's
my
almost like
work,
you're writing the script for your own life.
oh my gosh, it is exactly what you're doing. Here's the thing. I call it creation. I call it, like, I was quoted. Bob Proctor asked me from stage what happened, because my results, the first time I tripled my income within 6 months. And then after that, it like just kept happening. Like every few months I was tripling my income. And he's like, what's, like, in your
Selling that
words?
lip gloss.
Yeah. Yeah. At this point I had become a coach, and he put me on stage and he's like, in your words, what did you do? And I said, I wrote her and I became her. And in my other office at my my chalet, I have a poster that my sister printed of that quote, because it became so significant.
I
And this
love
is 10
that.
years ago now, right? And
I wrote
so
her and I
I
became her.
became
I
her.
love it.
So, but what's important is that in the beginning, it feels like you are right. Like we are creating the script of our life, and we're creating our character. And after now working with thousands of women, I believe that we're actually remembering that it feels like I'm creating, like it's a conscious, logical exercise. And that's how I explain it, because it's applicable and there's something to do. And though I believe what's happening is the truth of who you are, that essence, the purpose of why you came here in this life, 2026 is to show up and to actually, this unfoldment of who you've always have been is the becoming. So it's a remembrance.
Mm. You know, it's really fascinating to step into like a practice of like dropping in. Not everyone can visualize, but like I'm like, my number one strength is visionary. So like I've always been a very visual person, daydreamer, close my eyes. One time a coach like dropped me and they're like, I want you to envision your highest self. And it was like this Greek goddess. And it was so cool because like it's like, I liken it to the idea, like if you can believe, if you can see something, then it must be true in one way, shape, or form, right? Like from that positive light. So if the essence of who we are is actually a goddess or like this higher vibration energy, what makes us think that in this realm, we're not that person?
Totally. Yeah. So and I always say to that point, your highest self-image is you understanding the truth of who and what you are as an extension of source. So like that's the highest perception you could have of yourself. And so then how would you really show up if you really believed that in everyday life? And often that's such a stretch.
Such a good reminder.
Right?
Yeah.
Often that's such a big stretch for people, like to walk around and say, okay, I'm an extension of God. I'm like a goddess in this physical form. Right. And for a lot of women, it's challenging for them to like go to the grocery store as a goddess. So how I work it is I'm like, okay, so that might be a stretch for you to operate. So let's take bite-sized pieces. So tell me what you'd like in the next 12 months and with a magic wand, if anything's possible. And so they might say, okay, I'm going to 10x my income. Okay, great. So let's use that to build your self-image, your new identity around a 10x income. And so we think about the version of you now earning the income that you're earning, let's use $5,000 a month, is showing up a certain way. 10x that would be $50,000 a month. We know the version of you, your self-image now, is not the same self-image that's going to attract 50,000. So let's look at how you are thinking, feeling, acting. Let's go on all the planes that we exist. So what are your thoughts about your current job or your as an entrepreneur? What prospecting? What are those thoughts? Let's be honest. How do you feel? How are you feeling about yourself? The way you show up and greet other people. Then what are the actions that you're taking? How are you dressing? What car are you driving? All of those things on the physical realm now. And because of that, the combination of that, that's what's getting you your current results of $5,000 a month. So now let's go up here to that goal achieved self, 50,000. Well, the $50,000 version of you, would she be thinking those same thoughts? No. Mm-mm. Would she be feeling that way as it relates to money, prospecting, and it starts to become really obvious. Would she be acting that way? Does she have the same habits? Or does she have different support systems around her? Does she dress that same way? And then what you want to notice is that you can start becoming her now. And so then you bring that vision that you created and you start bringing into the right now reality on all three realms. And it takes repetition. You can use auto suggest, like repetition of all of it, repetition of habits, repetition of what you're saying to yourself. It takes you changing perhaps your posture, the way you dress, the way you speak consciously. And you must practice this new way of being. And that's how you reprogram a new self-image or identity. And as you do that, you'll start attracting new opportunities because you're going to attract on the new level in which you're showing up as.
And people are attracted to that new energy at a higher vibration.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Do you have a practice, like a specific practice that you walk people through to do this?
Yeah, it's very similar to what I explained. It does take writing, and I know that writing causes thinking, and we think in pictures. Most of us think in pictures, right? And so that writing actually allows you to see a picture or I feel a picture. You don't have to see it like a vision like that, but you can feel it. And it's the writing that allows for that. And so if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand is the idea like you touched on. And so the clarity is your starting point. You've got to become very, very clear on what you want. And then from there, embodying it is through the practice of it. And there's a lot of ways that I keep clients accountable or encourage them to keep themselves accountable. I use Post-it notes. I use cues to remind myself of ways of being. I use things like lipstick to remind myself to stay in that character. So, you could put on red lipstick and then when you look in the mirror, it's like, oh yeah, like this is like my confident vibe. We can use clothing. And then other people in your life can help you stay accountable. Like my daughter is a great example. She will use the word lollipop. If she hears me complaining or like operating in a way that she knows I'm not committed to, she'll be like, Mom, lollipop. We could be out in public. Lollipop. I'm like, oh, right. Yeah. Like bring myself.
That's so good because it brings you back and you're not triggered at her like saying like, Mom, you're being a.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So it's a code word.
I love that idea. It's like a safe word.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
Oh my gosh. I love this so much.
Thank you.
It's been a great conversation. I'm so glad that we got to chat and that Anna introduced us. So tell me a little bit more, like for people who want to explore working with you or learn little bit more about what you do, where can they find you?
The best place is Instagram. So at the Danielle Amos. And we've got some help from our bot friends. We call Mandy the ManyChat bot. And after they provide you with some value and some freebies, I always come in there myself. So it's actually me in there and I'll DM everyone. And if this interview and conversation resonated with you, please send me a message there and let me know. And I'm happy to answer questions and riff on this. Like I could honestly talk about this all day long. So
I know. I feel like if you want to leave our listeners with just one final takeaway, what would it be?
the way I sign a lot of emails is expect abundance. And I do that because there's a very real truth that you always get what you expect. And if you expect and assume the outcome and live from that assumption, so be it. You cannot fake believe. You'll always get what you believe. And so make it a practice for you to expect the abundance that is actually your birthright. It's your natural state. And so it is.
I think, and so it is. I think my favorite term that you said this entire conversation was, you cannot fake believe.
Yeah.
It's so good. I've never heard it explained that way before.
Well, and it's going to show up in your results, right? So if you think you believe something and then it's not actually what's happening in the circumstance, you go to the root cause and tweak what you're believing. And a belief is just a thought you keep thinking. So you get to choose your thoughts. So again, take responsibility, like we started this conversation. And there's lots of tools, obviously, that you can change. And for me, I'm like, well, can I just think a new thought? Like, can I actually believe that? And what's it going to take for me to believe that? And then I do that thinking work and journal and,
I love this so much. Thank you so much for being here. What a great conversation.
Thank you, Tracy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for watching the show today. This is Tracy signing off. Until next time, everything we spoke about in the episode, all the links that we mentioned are in the show notes below. So definitely check those out. And if you haven't done so yet, make sure that you give us a rating and review and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching today. It's Tracy signing off. Until next time. Ciao for now.